Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen, Max Verstappen, Max Verstappen, a three-time champion of the world.
This tale follows a young man from the Netherlands who dominated Formula One so thoroughly that the organisation had to modify its regulations to ensure nobody could replicate his achievements. Max Verstappen didn't simply win competitions. He accomplished something that contradicts the principles of competitive athletics and will stay unattainable for future generations. This story chronicles a youngster who wasn't merely raised to be quick, he was engineered to be unbeatable. While other children entertained themselves with toy automobiles, Max Verstappen was being molded into a racing instrument by the most uncompromising instructor conceivable, his own father. Jos Verstappen didn't merely desire his son to compete in Formula One. He wanted to create something the racing world had never witnessed before. A driver so thorough, so fearless, so fundamentally unique that the entire sport would rewrite its regulations just to control him. This isn't simply another racing narrative. This is the formula for manufacturing excellence. And when you comprehend how Max Verstappen was created, you'll understand why nobody will ever be capable of duplicating him. Before we dive into the details of our investigation, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and give it a like. It really helps the channel grow. What Jos did to his 9-year-old son at a gas station would astonish even the most hardened parents. The Verstappen family garage wasn't a location for casual tinkering. It was a research facility for creating champions. At age 2.5, while other toddlers were mastering how to walk properly, Max was already racing around the family garden on a quad bike at 40 miles per hour. When he crashed into a barrier, scraping his helmet, he didn't weep. He continued going. This wasn't fortune. This was conditioning. Jos knew precisely what he was doing. Every weekend meant a 1,250-kilometre round trip to Italian karting tracks. While Max slept on spare tyres in their worn-out van, Jos worked alone through the night, rebuilding engines by flashlight. But the genuine training occurred on the track, where Jos employed techniques that bordered on psychological warfare. Picture this: 8-year-old Max complaining about cold fingers during winter practice. Jos's response was simple: "I don't care, drive." When rain poured down and track conditions became dangerous with everyone else heading home, Jos bolted slick tires onto Max's kart and sent him into the storm. Not to punish him, but to teach him something no racing school could: how to find grip where others see chaos. But perhaps the most brutal lesson came after a poor race when Max was 9. Frustrated with his performance, Jos drove to a gas station, told Max to get out, and simply abandoned him there. For 1 hour, a 9-year-old boy stood alone at that pump, wondering if his father would ever return. When his mother finally rescued him, Jos refused to speak to him for days. "The silence," Max later said, "hurt more than any lecture ever could." But this brutal treatment was nothing compared to what happened when Max finally made it to Formula One. These weren't just training sessions. They were masterclasses in mental warfare. Jos would secretly swap kart parts between runs, forcing Max to feel changes instead of relying on data. He'd change setups without warning, making Max diagnose problems through pure instinct. While other kids learned to read telemetry, Max was learning to read the impossible. By age 7, Max won his first race against competitors 4 years older. By 9, he'd claimed Belgian and Dutch karting titles. At 13, he swept 3 major European series. And by 16, he was both world and European karting champion, beating future Formula One star Charles Leclerc in the process. But Jos wasn't satisfied with karting dominance. While other parents celebrated junior championships, he was already plotting Max's next move. Most drivers spend years climbing through Formula 4, then Formula 3, then Formula 2. Jos decided Max would skip the queue entirely. In 2014, at just 15 years old, Max jumped straight from karting into Formula 3. Within months, he was winning races, claiming 6 victories in a row. Max took 9 consecutive wins at Spa-Francorchamps, leaving veteran drivers speechless. Formula 3 teams had never seen anything like it. But Jos had one final test that would either make or break his son's Formula 1 dream forever. In 2015, Formula 1 was about to witness something unprecedented. Red Bull's junior team made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the paddock. They were signing a 17-year-old kid straight from Formula 3. Max Verstappen would become the youngest driver in Formula 1 history. The racing world was stunned. This wasn't how things worked, but Max didn't have time for tradition. At 17 years and 166 days old, Max stepped into that Toro Rosso and instantly rewrote the record books. He wasn't just the youngest Formula 1 driver ever, he was impossibly composed, racing wheel to wheel with world champions. The FIA was so rattled that they immediately began drafting new rules. The Verstappen Clause was born. No one under 18 could race in Formula 1 again. They literally changed the sport's constitution to ensure no teenager could follow his path. But Max wasn't just breaking age records. He was about to do something that would make grown men cry on live television. But Max wasn't done breaking records. He was just getting started. After proving he belonged, Red Bull made another shocking decision. In 2016, just 4 races into the season, they promoted Max to their senior team. The promotion came on a Monday. By Sunday, Max would make history again. Barcelona 2016, the Spanish Grand Prix. Max Verstappen, at 18 years and 228 days old, crossed the finish line first. He'd become the youngest winner in Formula 1 history, shattering Sebastian Vettel's record in spectacular fashion. For 22 laps, he held off Kimi Raikkonen's Ferrari, learning Red Bull's steering wheel on the fly. When he took the checkered flag, Dutch commentator Olaf Mol broke down crying live on television. But Max's journey wasn't just about breaking records, it was about breaking rivals. And no rivalry was more intense than the one that began in the muddy karting tracks of Europe. Charles Leclerc, today's Ferrari superstar, was back then just another karting competitor who learned the hard way what racing against Max really meant. In a rain-soaked 2012 WSK Euro race, young Leclerc punted Verstappen mid-corner. Both drivers were disqualified, but Max wasn't finished. On the cool-down lap, he retaliated by forcing Leclerc straight into a massive puddle. The cameras captured Leclerc's broken English interview afterward, where he complained about the unfairness, while Max dismissed it as just an incident. The phrase became meme legend. Even at 14, they weren't friends, they were cannibals. But these childhood rivalries were child's play compared to the war that was coming in 2021. As Max's Formula 1 career accelerated, his reputation for ruthless racing grew. He drove with an edge that made veterans uncomfortable. In 2018, he tangled with Sebastian Vettel in China, locking his wheels and taking out the Ferrari. His immediate response on team radio showed his character. He acknowledged locking the rears, admitted it was his fault, and took full responsibility for messing up the race single-handedly. No excuses, no blame shifting, just cold acknowledgement. He later called it a life lesson. But Max's defining moment came in 2021, when he faced his greatest challenge yet, Lewis Hamilton. The 2021 season became the most dramatic title fight in Formula 1 history. Every race felt like a heavyweight boxing match. They clashed at Silverstone, where Max's car flipped into the barriers at 192 miles per hour. They collided at Monza, where Verstappen's Red Bull launched over Hamilton's cockpit, with the halo device literally saving Lewis's life. Then came Abu Dhabi, the season finale. They were tied on points, winner takes all. What happened next would become the most controversial moment in Formula 1 history. For 57 laps, Hamilton looked untouchable. But a late safety car changed everything. In a controversial decision that's still debated today, race director Michael Masi allowed only certain lapped cars to unlap themselves, putting Max directly behind Lewis with fresh tyres and 1 lap remaining. Max didn't hesitate. He overtook Hamilton and claimed his first world championship in the most dramatic fashion possible. But this was just the beginning. What followed would transform Max from a champion into something Formula One had never seen before, a complete destroyer of records. After 2021, Max Verstappen didn't just become a world champion, he became a force of nature. What followed was 2 years of dominance so complete, so utterly devastating that it redefined what was possible in Formula One. In 2022, Max won 15 races out of 22, but that was just the warm-up act. 2023 was the year Max Verstappen broke Formula One. 19 wins out of 22 races, an 86% win rate, a 10-race winning streak that shattered Sebastian Vettel's previous record. He scored 575 points, obliterating every single season record in the sport's history. The gap between Max and his teammate Sergio Perez was 290 points, larger than most championship-winning margins in Formula One history. But these weren't just statistics. This was systematic destruction of the competition. Every weekend, Max would qualify on pole, disappear into the distance, and cross the finish line with gaps so large they felt personal. The RB19 wasn't just the fastest car on the grid. It was a machine built specifically around Max's unique driving style, and nobody else could unlock its secrets. Red Bull had created something unprecedented, a one-car team. While Perez struggled to adapt to the knife-edge balance that Max preferred, Verstappen extracted performance that seemed to defy physics. Former drivers admitted the car felt impossible to drive for anyone else. Max had become so integrated with his machine that they were no longer driver and car. They were a single entity. But the most shocking revelation wasn't his dominance. It was what he planned to do at age 31. In 2023, while at the peak of his powers, Max made an announcement that stunned the Formula One world. He wouldn't race until he was 40. The grueling travel schedule, the endless politics, the 24-race calendar, Max saw it all as sacrifices he wasn't willing to make indefinitely. His contract runs until 2028, when he'll be 31, and then he's ready to walk away at his absolute peak. This mindset makes every Max Verstappen season feel urgent, electric, historic. He's not building a legacy over decades. He's cramming greatness into a compressed time frame that makes every moment count. And here's the terrifying truth that will haunt Formula One forever. The FIA's age restrictions mean no 17-year-old will ever debut in Formula One again. The super license point system ensures drivers must spend years proving themselves in junior categories. The very rules Max's arrival inspired have slammed the door shut behind him. Even if another prodigy emerges with Max's raw talent, they can't replicate his journey. They can't skip the queue. They can't shock the world at 17. They can't win at 18. The sport has been restructured to prevent another Verstappen from ever happening. Add to that the perfect storm of circumstances. A father who was a Formula One driver, the most extreme training methods imaginable, a Red Bull team willing to take unprecedented risks, and cars designed around a driving style so unique that teammates couldn't match it. It was lightning in a bottle. Max Verstappen didn't just drive in Formula One. He drove Formula One to change itself. He broke so many barriers, shattered so many records, and redefined so many possibilities that the sport had to evolve just to contain him. He wasn't just faster than his rivals, he was faster than the sport itself could handle. From a 2-year-old on a quad bike to the most dominant champion in Formula One history, Max Verstappen proved that greatness isn't just about talent. It's about timing, circumstances, and the willingness to break every rule that stands in your way. And in doing so, he made sure that no one could ever follow the same path again. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss Formula One's greatest stories. See you in the next one.